It works for almost everyone, but there's that one person, jittery mouse hands, the only way I can describe it, that, you know, they drag and drop things and they don't know where it went.
Jittery mouse hand sounds like a Saturday Night Live commercial. Okay, I've got resting bitch face and jittery mouse hand.
Do you have resting bitch face and jittery mouse hand?
Very
This
good.
drug may be for you.
Welcome to the SMB Community Podcast with your hosts, Amy Babinchek, James Kernan, Amy Luby, and Karl Palachuk. Produced by and for the Small Biz Thoughts technology community. We're dedicated to making every IT professional a successful IT professional.
So the New York Times story just says Silicon Valley woke up to a blizzard of text messages, phone calls, and Twitter posts about the banks mounting woes, and then clients rushed to withdraw their money. But I had seen a thing in a headline only for Fortune that said that Twitter may have played a role in the first ever, social media focused bank run. So, but I think that it was just clickbait. The interesting thing is the average retirement fund for the average American is $70,000. So the people who have more than $250,000 in a bank account and haven't bothered to split that into two bank accounts, to me, it's a little like people who don't buy flood insurance when they're in a flood zone. The government has told you what to do. Here are the limits. We'll take care of it if you do X, we won't if you do Y. And ignore that, then should they be made whole by the government or should they be on their own?
Mm-hmm.
So and it's one thing to say, oh, the limit, the insurance is 250,000 and I've got 300 or I've got 350. It's another one to say I've got 8 billion.
Right.
But I'm covered for the first 250,000.
This may be what I was thinking of. So in this article by Robert Reich, he says, Greg Becker sold 3.6 million of Silicon Valley Bank stock under a trading plan less than 2 weeks before the firm disclosed extensive losses that led to its failure. There's nothing illegal about corporate trading plans like the one Becker used, but the timing could have been merely coincidental, but it smells awful. He certainly had the knowledge in his role to know that the bank wasn't doing well, and then to sell stock. And the reason he was, as the article says, the reason he was able to do that is because of regulatory rollbacks that happened. But that's actually the trigger. So when that happened, word got out, and then the sell-off began.
Yeah, well, I mean, even if you're the owner, if you're the executive director of a bank, you can be over leveraged in the bank that you run, and sometimes you have to balance your stuff, and I get all that. But this bank really is unusual, and people need to not be panicking that their local bank is going to fail, because the local banks are actually those regulations are enforced. These guys worked really hard. They spent some of their billions lobbying the government to not enforce the regulations on them that they enforce on everybody else.
They do, and they're a special kind of bank, right? They're an investment bank, but it has led to a few other banks to also fail, some of which are due to unfortunate bank runs. Credit Suisse is going through that moment right now, where it's known that the bank has some issue. They will recover unless there's a bank run.
Well, so we're recording this on a Thursday, so very soon it will be the weekend, and that's when the government comes to take away the bank and sell off the assets and make it. And actually, it's important to point out, like with SVB, that you and I and the citizens of the United States didn't pay any money to solve this bank problem. The government came in and told other banks, you need to buy this and this and this, and sort of divvy up the parts. So it's kind of a forced sale.
Yeah, but which means that the money is actually there because they said this is your ability to recover your money is not going to be limited to 250,000. Everybody's going to get all of their money.
Right.
So, and it won't cost the federal government anything to do so. So money was there. It was just, I mean, you got to say it was just panic.
Yeah. And it is the nature of banking. Like, none of these banks have all of their money sitting in a vault where it does absolutely nothing for them or the investors, right? For even to give you 1% on your interest for your savings, they got to put that money somewhere. So anyway, with luck, it will all blow over, and soon April will be here, and it's spring and flowers, and no one will care about banks anymore.
This is true. It'll be, yeah, this falls into your phrase actually of being an economy of one, because recessions are often largely based on how people feel, which is weird. It's like if you're optimistic about the economy, then the economy continues to chug along and everything's good. If enough people decide that they're not optimistic about it, then the economy falls into a recession. There's a certain amount of influence that individuals have over the greater economy, and it's bigger than we think, right? Until you can change the sentiment out there, the recession doesn't end, or the bank run doesn't end, or whatever it is. But it actually doesn't have anything to do with the underlying fundamentals.
Well, and just for the record, I stole it. I always give credit to Michael Gerber for that in The Entrepreneur Within. That's where he starts talking about you're an economy of one. So the other thing I will take some credit for is that nobody's paying any attention to you, nothing personal, but most of the time, most of the people are not paying any attention to you. And so what happens is most of the time, most of the people aren't paying any attention to the bank, right? But on the day that they do pay attention, the bank needs to have their messaging right and not be responsive. They need to be just doing what they do every day. It's sort of like you're going along doing the right thing, and then one day the flashlight is on you. And if they just see your daily operation is a normal good thing, that's one thing. If they see you panicking and scurrying like a roach, they might suspect that something is wrong in your daily operations, because the only time they pay any attention to you, it's not good. So we see that a lot with Wells Fargo, to be honest.
So the question is, does any of this actually matter to the IT professional?
Only to the extent that, the people who love cryptocurrency will tell you that, the economy is not real, and the only reason the dollar has any value is because we say it does. And so you can magically just pretend that cryptocurrency has value, and now it does. So people will believe what they want to believe. I think most people, if you're in a good bank that's a solid brand name bank, they're doing exactly what they're supposed to be doing. They've been stress tested multiple times by the government. And there's no question that your money is just sitting there waiting for you.
I agree.
People choose to panic, they will hoard their money. If their customers choose to panic, they will hoard their money. So again, the idea that the economy consists of all of us agreeing that there is such a thing called an economy and that it's heading in the right direction, as long as we all continue to believe that, then life will be good.
Mark your calendars and plan to be with us May 17th and 18th as we bring you the 2023 SMB Online Conference. Check us out at smbonlineconference.com. You'll find we have more than a dozen speakers and 2 days filled with presentations, plus a format that really works for online conferences. Save $100 by registering today at smbonlineconference.com.
Back to our podcast, I bought a book. And I know this comes as no surprise to you because people buy books from you every day. But the book I bought is a tech book. I'll show it to you.
Microsoft
right?
Defender for Endpoint in Depth.
Yeah,
Ooh.
it's like the old days of of tech books. I'm surprised anybody can actually write one that is a couple hundred pages or several hundred pages, because tech changes so rapidly. But they did, and I bought it, and I took a little picture of me holding the book, actually just the book in my arm, and posted to Facebook like I bought a book and it came, and it got so many likes, like more likes than anything that I've posted recently. It really caught me by surprise. I mean, anyway, it's just notable because I have not bought a here's how you do stuff book in such a long time. All the books I've bought are business books and more general topic stuff. Maybe the era of the tech book is going to return.
I hope so. I do have to say, I think the average technician knew more about their own trade 20 years ago than they do today.
Yeah, I agree. I think there's a dearth of actual technology training and teaching, the teaching part especially. So you can go and get a certification, you go through a certain amount of training to teach you how to pass the cert, but that's not the same as going to a webinar to learn how to do something.
Right.
What I hear on webinars a lot is pretty general, like, a security webinar. Well, let's just talk about security and all the problems in security and all the generalizations about security, but let's not actually teach you how to do something about it. Right? The advice is go buy a tool.
Right.
But that the depth is really missing in our industry today.
The pitfalls of set it and forget it, right? Like that sounds like a good thing and it's great sales fodder, but it might be the worst single thing you can do for your security.
Oh yeah, I mean, if you think about the simplest thing you can do in security is have a backup, right? Most of the time they don't even talk about backup as a security thing these days, but it's like your final wall of of defense, right? You can't hurt me, I have a backup. If all goes really bad, I have a backup. But and all of these security tools, I mean, backup is the thing that you cannot set and forget. And that is true of every single security thing that's out there, because it has so many moving parts. And, as we always would say, like, your computer would be perfectly fine if you never touched it.
Right. Or plugged
Right,
it in.
or plugged it in. But the second you do those things, it changes. And when that changes, your security posture changes. And that means somebody has to be watching the wheel. You can't set it and forget it. And it's a lot of work. So you do need some tools to help you with it. But you also need somebody to watch the tool and somebody to really understand what the tool is doing. Right, it used to drive me crazy in the SBS days that people just used the wizard and had no idea what the wizard actually did.
Right.
You should know that so that you understand the tool that you're using. If you don't understand the tool that you're using, you will never be successful at using the tool because you don't actually know what it does. You just have blind trust that when you click this thing, something good will happen.
Well, I've always pushed, even literally from my first book forward, you have to restore from backup every month. And because you have to know how that tool works, you have to know how to do it. You have to know what the lights mean and what the switches mean, right? So that you don't restore from the wrong medium, restore from a failed backup, right? There's all kinds of things that can go wrong. And the technicians don't know those things unless they touch it and do it and are successful in every environment, with every client, with every different arrangement every month. And then when there's an emergency, they're not seeing something for the first time. And so, with that philosophy, literally, that's the philosophy of my entire business, is the single most important thing we do is restore from backup. And because of what it means in the bigger picture. And one time I had a coaching client who said, I can't meet today. We discovered that one of our backups failed after a client had an emergency. And now we have to go test and verify all of our backups are working. And all I can think of is, oh my God, You
Right.
run an IT business, and and you don't know if all your clients' backups are working. Like, this is a big deal.
Yeah, that's on our monthly maintenance task for techs is they have to do a restore, and they don't have to restore the entirety of all the data,
Oh no.
but they have to restore something, right? And pick a different person in the company to restore to, right? So we're pretty much all cloud. There's a few servers out there, and we have one person who does the servers. But everybody has their cloud backups, and it's like just pick a person in the company, and this gives you the opportunity to talk to somebody they haven't talked to before, and restore a piece of their data. And the way these restore works, we store them to a different location,
Right.
so it creates a little folder and has the file in there. It's like, make sure they see the folder, make sure they see the file, have them click on the file, open the file, right? So you know that that worked, and then say, thank you for helping us. And they're happy, happy, happy to do it.
Right.
And it gives you that extra little touch point with a client, right? Not everything we do has to be invisible and behind the scenes.
Well, especially since then they see, oh, I didn't realize that you guys did this, and it's a good thing, and they feel comfortable that something can get done. It's funny, the one client I ever had who had the most faith in her backups was one that I basically had to teach her, because she had this rogue staff that they're the reason that drag and drop should never have been invented. That they would say, oh, all my client files are missing. And so I had to teach her how to go find them and put them back where they belonged, and every once in a while somebody go, oh, I accidentally deleted, a gig of data. It's like, wait a minute. It takes a while to delete a gig of data. Like, it's not like you go click and it's gone, right? So anyway, long story, she would call on me on a regular basis, and we would go fix stuff. And she never wanted to spend money to train her staff to not be doing stupid stuff. But whatever, that's okay. She paid me to fix it. So
one of my techs found the solution for that, and it's a tech solution. Pretty sure I blogged about it at Third Tier so that others can use it. Because we had one client too, and it's not something you need to do for every client, but we had one where they would regularly do what you just described. Drag and drop a folder into a folder and then panic because it was gone. And, and we would search for it and find it. And finally it was like, man, is there a way to stop people from doing this? Like, I don't know what it is. They have like jittery mouse hand or something. And so he found that in the registry, you can actually change the number of pixels movement that's required for Windows to recognize that you are dragging and dropping. And just adding a few pixels to that cleaned up the whole problem.
That's interesting. Well, a lot of people, they start to drag and drop, and then the window underneath it changes, the window refreshes. And so where they thought they were going to drop it, it wasn't where it actually got dropped. Again, I just think it's one of the things in technology that should never have been invented, but that's just my personal opinion.
I caught up with Eric Simmons, CEO of Asigra, and instead of 5 minutes with a really smart guy, here's 15 minutes with a really smart guy. This is Karl, and I am talking to Eric Simmons, who is the CEO of Asigra. Welcome, sir.
Thank you very much. Great to be here, Karl.
So tell me a little bit about your background, where you're from, and how did you get here?
Okay, it's an interesting journey how I got here, but
it always is.
Yeah, and with a lot of fun along the way. So I'll start really early. I started my career and studied social and cultural anthropology and economics. Apparently the perfect precursor for a job in technology and innovation.
Who knew, like, cultural anthropology, like that's what ransomware is all about.
Right. It is. Yeah. Here's the downside of trade and negotiation.
Right. Exactly.
Started my career in technology. So I started off at a value-added reseller working for Compugen, actually, Harry Zarek, and did hardware, software, and then they spun off a professional services division. So worked in that aspect. And that's, I think, really what gave me the beginning to think about things more strategically. I was meeting with key business stakeholders and putting, complex solutions, simplifying complex elements of their business by effectively using technology, to streamline multiple processes.
Asigra is a company that a lot of people in the enterprise have known for many years, decades, but a lot of people in SMB haven't heard of it. So tell us a little bit about what the company is all about.
So Asigra is a 37-year-old company. It was started by our founder, David Farragon, in 1986, and loved the way he started the company. He was coding one day, lost his code, went to his manager, said, "How can I get my code back?" They said, "You can't." Went and asked a bunch of other people. They said, "You can't." He went to look for a product. They said there wasn't one that existed. And he said, "Okay, well, that's what I'm going to do next." Literally. So he started building out Asigra, and brilliant man, and is always looking sort of 5 years ahead. Where's the industry going? Where's the industry trending? It really pushed Asigra hard in the last 3 to 5 years to be very focused on the integration of cybersecurity and backup, and recognizing that as ransomware attacks change, as hackers change their strategy to get to your data or get to prevent you from using a clean backup to continue to run your business, new elements needed to be built into the backup software to enable those protections. We built a number of those and have been lucky enough to win a number of awards for the great work that we've done in innovating in this space over the years.
It's interesting. My position has always been the single most important thing we do in SMB IT is to restore backups. And I say that only because if you don't do a restore every month, you cannot say that you have a backup.
Right.
Because something happens somewhere in the middle, some little thing, somebody flips a switch, who knows? Stuff happens.
Yeah.
And so how do we make sure that we get it back up all the time? Because people are lazy. They want to set it and forget it. But if you forget it for too long, eventually something's going to change.
Yeah. And I think there's a mixture of using the model of set it and forget it. I think it's critical. I think it's also about making it easy and making it apparent when there is an issue. A lot of the elements that we have built into our product over the years have been designed to be automated. So again, if we're doing a specialized scan on the content to make sure that there's no viruses or anti-malware or ransomware in that repository before it goes into the backup, that's an automated process. It happens in line at the same time as you're doing your backup. Good. That means it happens every time. Same thing on the recovery, which is even more important. This is going back into your production environment. So if there is something in there, you're essentially bringing ransomware back into your production environment. Right. We call that the attack loop, but it means you don't have a clean recovery. And so because we do this on every recovery, you can make sure you have a clean recovery, of your data. And it is critical. Our motto over the years has been recovery is everything. It's one thing to back up, but really at the end of the day, you need to be able to recover it in the time when it's required. And you need to make sure that other people can't go into the software and use the software against itself to prevent you from getting that clean backup. And that's whether it's internal or external threats.
Yeah, just making the backup work has become more difficult than it used to be. It used to be there was a backup job and a tape and you were done and that was it. So you scan to the backup and then you scan from the backup.
That's correct.
Because something new might have come up in the meantime, or you might find new fixes to old problems that you didn't know you had.
Yes. There's sleeper attacks, Trojan horse attacks that are designed to get past anti-malware scans that could still end up in your backup. But now your network is encrypted. You have ransomware. It's no longer a zero-day attack. It's now got heuristics and it's detectable. And so therefore we can remove that because it's a known issue, right? Scan, which we added this past year, again, very innovative. It's large enterprises who are using this as an addition to their anti-malware scanning. Basically protects you against deeply embedded attacks. So if I have a zip file with a PowerPoint presentation with a PDF, and somewhere in that PDF there's ransomware, most things aren't going to find it. It's going to get into your backup. And then when you go to do the recovery, again, it's going to just bring it right back in your environment. So what CDR does is it actually breaks each of those elements into their individual components, and then it scans every single line that's in there, finds the malicious code, pulls it out, quarantines an original copy of the document for legal purposes, and then it reconstructs this document without that element. So, I take the scenario of, we've spent 6 weeks writing an RFP that cost the company $100,000. All of a sudden, our RFP response gets a virus, gets quarantined, and we have no way of making the date in 3 days to recover. And
so whether that's a Word document or PDF or whatever, you can reconstruct the document.
Yeah.
So that's
it could be that the sales presentation the whole company uses. Again, there's certain documents you want to make sure are available, which is in many cases there's quite a number of them. And so CDR really enables that. And at its very highest setting, it's a zero trust policy. It basically strips out anything that could be malicious and guarantees you that first recovery to be clean.
very cool. So we want to get into more detail on that,
Sure.
but let me first give the website. So why don't you tell us the best place for partners to get connected to you?
Yeah, the website is www.asigra.com.
And then we also are going to do a webinar, and I got to make sure the date is right, that it's April 19th. And we're going to do the webinar. April 19th is called, Does Your Backup Protect You Against the Latest Ransomware Threats? So, and you're going to be the one on that.
I will be the one on that, yes.
Very good. So I recommend folks go ahead and get to your site and begin the process. I'm sure it's not very difficult to become a partner, but
yeah,
we've
made it easy to become a partner. And you'll also see on our website that we've made a technology announcement of a new product that we're launching later this year as well.
So this whole concept that you have a zero trust recovery, does that mean that I recover just enough to get me in business and then I go back and recover the rest of everything?
Yeah, so what it would do is it would strip out every macro, every link, and any potentially malicious code out of all of those documents that might have it. So, there could be a number of documents that get quarantined.
And even if most of them are actually safe, you're not going to restore them the first round, but then you're going to go back and
no. So it'll scan through every single document. So if it, there could be a positive macro. You have an Excel spreadsheet and you're tying a couple of numbers together, and you want it to automatically update.
Right.
It will strip those out as well. So there is some element of overly protective is probably the best way of putting it. But there's times where that's required.
Right.
Right. You want to, you get most of the business up and running without any issues. And, you've got a couple other issues to deal with as opposed to trying to figure out, how to get the organization back up and running and spending, all kinds of money on fixing that and also on, reputational risk.
It seems like there's a massive amount of computing power needed to open up every document, especially if you're going to remove the bad stuff and then put the document back together.
Right.
Is this done on site or in the cloud or both?
So it would be done in our software, which is the DS client. And that is the software that essentially, so I guess what's unique about our architecture is that it's agentless. So we don't have a whole bunch of agents going out and, attaching themselves to everywhere and potentially slowing down the network. And as a result of that, we're able to build more complexity into our software, which then becomes a single choke point between, the live environment and the backup. Everything that either goes out or in has to go through our software. And then it has the option of adding these additional settings where I want it to do this scan every time. I want to do this scan every time. Or in this instance, I want to change it to, my zero trust policy because I just need to get my data back. We've had a breach of some kind, and I need to get as much of the company up and running as possible.
Very cool. And how long does it take for a partner to sort of get up to speed? Is it something where I could join it this afternoon and be selling it next week?
Yes. It's been designed for MSPs from the ground up. We've sold into MSPs for the last 37 years. And we've made it easy to, get set up, to use the software, to do a recovery. We have some very granular capabilities in terms of restore that make it particularly valuable. If I want to recover, I don't know, maybe it's the chief marketing officer lost their email, or the CEO, or somebody who's going to be very unhappy if they don't get it back very quickly. And so there's the ability for us, to go in and just grab that mailbox, let's say, or that.
Right. Yeah, we always worry about the biggie, which is the hacker who comes in and destroys the universe. But the most common restore is probably, somebody clicked delete by accident, or they mucked up a document and we need the one from last quarter.
Right. Exactly.
Very cool. So I encourage folks to go to asigra.com and get started. And then is there a particular size of MSP that you cater to? Like, do I need to have 100 clients or 1,000?
So we've got MSPs that are very small to very large. It really is, the software is designed in a way that, and the pricing model in a way that allows for companies to be able to reach out and provide it to, a whole group of small customers, or, any kind of mix. And it can be cloud, or, locally stored, or, hybrid. So it really just depends on what the requirements are of the customer. But it uses surprisingly less compute power than you would think. It's not, you don't need a big honking machine, and most people could run it on their laptop today without any problem whatsoever.
Yeah, very nice.
Yeah.
Oh, all right. Well, we will see you on the webinar, and we'll put a link to that so people can get signed up for that as soon as possible.
Thank you so much. Looking forward to it. Always good to see you. Thanks.
Thank you for tuning in to the SMB Community Podcast. If you found this useful, interesting, or fun, please subscribe, share with your friends, and give us a thumbs up on your favorite social media. Please check out the show notes at smbcommunitypodcast.com and give us your feedback.